Welcome to Healthy Heart. This is Dr. Isaac Opoku-Asare. Thank you for joining me this evening and every Saturday evening for us to talk about health. I also want to thank our producer and the team that has been supporting us. We believe that what we are doing here will go a long way to help you to make the appropriate steps to be able to hopefully enjoy life. That is number one, and also live long. We would like to hear from you. It's very important to hear from you. So please, any questions or any suggestions that you have concerning our program, we would like you to send it to us. You can go to Zoelight Radio that is broadcasting this to you, and you can put in any comments or any questions, and we are here to hear from you. We want to make sure that what we are doing is helping you so that we'll continue to do them. It's very important to get a feedback and also make sure that what we are sending to you is addressing the need that you have in terms of cardiovascular health. So to start with, we want to reinforce the pillars of ideal cardiovascular health, which is number one. We talked about non-sedentary lifestyle or physical activity, which is walking at least 30 days walking at least 30 minutes 5 times in a week. That is a total of 150 minutes. So you can decide to do your 150 minutes within 1 week, within a day, in 1 day, or you can decide to break it down to 30 minutes every day for 5 days in a week, or you can decide to walk for 75 minutes twice in a week, and you get it. And for those of you that are engaged in vigorous activities like swimming, like jogging or running, all that you need to do is 75 minutes of that in a week, and that should suffice. So if you're somebody that is on a treadmill running at a pretty high speed, you can do that a total of 75 minutes, and that should suffice for what you need to do. If you also practice climbing is also a high intensity activity, and if you can engage in that for 75 minutes in a week, that is important. The other thing that we also know, the second pillar of ideal cardiovascular health. For me, the 3 main pillars, I'm going to talk about that, then I'll add other things, because I believe that if there is no genetic predisposition, if you have these first 3 pillars, then the others will follow. So the second one, we said the first one is physical activity. That is to me is the most important. Then the second thing is appropriate dietary pattern. Appropriate dietary pattern is what we've been trying to lay emphasis on. Remember that we talked about physical activity, and now we're talking about appropriate dietary patterns, and we've talked about fast, we've talked about salt, and we've talked about carbohydrates. We started the first part of carbohydrates by talking about sugar, and today we want to continue with the second part of carbohydrates and lay important emphasis on appropriate food that I will recommend for you that can go a long way to control your blood pressure. It has also been known to be able to reduce the incidence of heart attacks, incidence of strokes, and incidence of dying from a cardiovascular cause. So appropriate dietary pattern, and as we said, the concept of diet does not mean what? Not eating food. No. The concept of dieting is what? The change of lifestyle. That is why the principle of dieting is not abstinence from food. It's a combination of picking the right food for you and eating the right food at appropriate time. That is why it includes the appropriate level of calorie that you should consume, the appropriate type of food that you should consume, and the principle of intermittent fasting, that if you practice it and practice it well. Now we know that if you do intermittent fasting with these other 2 components of dietary pattern, what are they? The appropriate amount of calorie and the type of calorie that you are picking it from, that will go a long way to help you. So number 1 is physical activity, and then number 2 is appropriate dietary pattern, and number 3, you remember this is number 3. The reason why I'm putting number 3 is because we know that being fit is more important than your weight, right? Sometimes we put too much emphasis on our weight, and people who are not obese tend to live in this false sense of healthiness. That is not true. I mean, in my experience, I just told my fellows in a conference that in my experience, people who are thin, when they come to us with heart attack, boy, the consequences can be pretty bad. And I've seen a lot of big people who come in and sometimes everything is there, and I mean, if you look at the coronaries and nothing is going on. There's a whole concept of obesity paradox. That is not a discussion for today. But it is important that you keep your weight at the appropriate level, which is ideally, people will say that a BMI, that is body mass index of 25, is ideal. But now there are a lot of data begin to show that probably the range is around 27. So I will say that 25, less than 25 to 18 to 25 is good. I will not belabor you too much. If your BMI is around 27, it looks like it seems to be a pretty good one too. And that is based on a peer trial. And also the other thing that is important in terms of your weight management is your what? Is your waist circumference. And your waist circumference, once again, is the circumference around your belly button. So that is very, very important to make sure. Actually, your waist circumference is a better index than your weight. It's a better index than your weight by itself, and a better index than what? Than your BMI, which is body mass index. So for the men, I always talk about it. For the men, if your waist circumference, that is the circumference around your belly button, is more than 40 inches, that is a problem, and we need to have a discussion. And then the last one, the last component of appropriate waist management is your waist, which is the belly button circumference, and your hip. That is, for the men, the area where your belt is. So the hip to waist circumference ratio ideally should be less than 1. The best is 0.9. If you have that, then you are doing appropriate weight management. So what are the pillars, in my opinion, for you to be able to enjoy ideal cardiovascular health? It is what? Physical activity. And the reason why we say physical activity, in my opinion, physical activity is number one, is the fact that being fit is better than what? Just your weight. No, we know that strength weight circumference is better than just what? It's better than just your weight. So number one is physical activity. Number two is appropriate dietary patterns. And number three is appropriate weight management. Then we come to number four, which is avoidance of smoking. Avoidance of smoking is important because you need to what? Prevent secondhand smoking. Then we go to the three. These are, in my opinion, they are great because when you have them, it clearly reduces your risk of having a cardiovascular event. But actually, there are certain things that you get from the first three or the first four. Let me put it this way: the physical activity and the appropriate dietary patterns and the weight management and smoking. If you can do these things, then the next three are important. What are they? This is keeping your blood sugar, your fasting blood sugar less than 100, appropriate sugar level, your blood pressure less than 130/80, which is appropriate level, and finally, the last one, that is the seventh one, is appropriate cholesterol level. Cholesterol is a huge issue. We'll come back and have a discussion about cholesterol. We're going to talk about a blockage in the heart in our next program. But the point that we are making here is that this is what the American Heart Association recommends as the 7 pillars. These are the 7 pillars: physical activity, appropriate dietary pattern, your weight, avoidance of smoking, your cholesterol less than appropriate level of cholesterol, ideally your total cholesterol less than 200, but that is extremely oversimplistic. Your fasting glucose less than 100, and your blood pressure less than 130/80. So I always tell people that for every one of these 7, if you don't have any of them, that is good. If you have any of them, it's 1, right? And the more you have them, the more you are having a problem in terms of if you have a sedentary lifestyle and you have an issue with your weight and all those things. Your goal at the beginning of the year is to make a decision that I'm going to move myself towards ideal cardiovascular health, rather than what? Being in a situation where, if you do the calculation, I always tell everybody, do this calculation yourself and see where you are and take the steps to move yourself towards ideal cardiovascular health. So We're now going to talk about, as part of our discussion on appropriate dietary patterns, we're going to talk about, we started a discussion on carbohydrates, and we said that the carbohydrates are made up of three main groups, that which is the sugars, and then the fiber and the starch. That's how carbohydrates are. Carbohydrates are not bad. As I said, fat is not bad, carbohydrates are not bad, proteins are not bad. All of them are good if you consume them in appropriate amounts. So let us go on our discussion. Let us move on in our discussion pertaining to the carbohydrates. We talked about simple sugars, and if you're interested in that, these things are available on YouTube, and you can access them without any problem. So let us look at let us look at the appropriate fiber. We talked about sugars, so you can go and look at that. So let us talk about fiber today. Then we can talk about Mediterranean diet, which is the main discussion for today. And why are we talking about Mediterranean diet? That I'm going to give you the reason for that. This is not my opinion. That's not the opinion of even, I don't think that is the opinion of just American Heart Association or any entity. This is something that is now considered as a cultural heritage, but by UNESCO. Mediterranean diet is considered as like is almost like an endangered, something that mankind should protect because of its powerful health effects on all of us. You can go and check it yourself, what Mediterranean diet is to UNESCO. So let us talk about fiber. So if you look at fiber, right, the good thing in life is fiber is found in virtually most of the food that you and me consume every day. But we need to make the choices. So if you look at the picture that we have right in front of us, you could see that most of us, we eat these things. You could see a picture of nuts, you could see a picture of corn, you could see a picture of grains. So if you are somebody that says that, okay, you have a problem with fiber, then I would encourage you to look at this picture and realize that you don't need to necessarily limit yourself to one of them. You can there are a lot of choices out there, and if you pick the right choice, it is going to go a long way to help you. We'll come back to this picture, but you see over there that there's bread, right? And you can see that a slice of bread that is on the screen now. Why is this important? So the first place that we in terms of fiber I'll talk about is whole grains. Whole grains means that whole wheat, oatmeal, whole corn, that is grain in its natural form. Brown rice, wild rice. So wild rice, brown rice, oatmeal, I'm saying them again, whole wheat, and even whole corn, the unpolished corn. These are good source of fiber. And why is whole grain important? Let me explain the principle to you. When God made these grains, the grain, they contain the bran. The bran is a covering, right? And then the eye of the grain, right? And then finally the main component of it. People will say they can give it various names, but you take out the bran and you take out the eye, and the rest of it that remains is the grain, but it's not the whole part of it. And in processing the grain, for instance, flour, for instance, they take the wheat and they want to process it. What do? They remove the bran, and they remove, if it is in the case of corn, they remove that. And then they process that for you and me. Why is that a problem? This is a reason. The bran that they remove contains the fiber. It's a very good source of fiber. And as we talked about it the last time, when you consume the fiber, fiber has one first advantage. The blood, the way that the carbohydrate enters your system is a very steady way, so that you get the energy being released gradually to help you. Once they remove the brain and the eye, what happens is that it shoots into your blood sugar. And that is what leads to the problems relating to diabetes from polished grains like white flour, white rice, and all the sugars that we have in giving us problems. So, sugars are not bad if they are found in their natural forms, for instance, in fruits. They are good. But that is not what I'm talking about. I want to talk about the grains first. So, number one, the fiber, you get a benefit of the fiber. Let us talk about number two, which people don't sometimes understand. So, for instance, you're eating white bread compared to a whole wheat bread or oatmeal bread. What is the benefit? The bran and the eye that they remove, or what they call the endosperm. I mean, the endosperm is the rest of it after they remove the eye and the bran. What happens is that in removing them, they are removing very good micronutrients for you, because the bran and the eye or the other components apart from the grain itself, they contain vitamin B1, B2, B3, and B9. These are very good source of vitamins for you. So that brown bread that you see is not only a question of carbohydrates, but it also contains very good source of vitamin. It's a very good source of vitamin, which if you eat them, it is better than spending your money to buy the vitamin supplements of vitamin B1, B2, B3 to add to what? To your food. Because this is a very good source of it. And this is what people don't understand. God, in his infinite wisdom, ensures that no matter which part of the planet that you are living on, if you eat food that is natural, without a lot of adulteration, you don't need to spend a lot of money on other so-called food supplements that may not go a long way to help you. I'm not against food supplements. I believe that sometimes our diets are lacking some form of vitamins and they may be helpful. But in the case of vitamin B1, B2, B3, as well as B9, eating whole grains is also a very, very good source of doing that. And that is why I will encourage you to switch from just white bread and all the polished grain. The concept is the polished grain, and move to whole grain, and that will give you the benefit. People tell me that when they eat the whole grain, they feel full. It is true. When you eat the whole grain, you are going to feel full. That is it. But that is one of the strengths of fiber. They create a sense of fullness. So it reduces the amount of food that you can go back to eat. Because if you eat by the principle of being hungry, certain people eat because food is available. Oh boy, you need to stop that. Because even if they eat and they see that somebody just brought food, they want to add more. No. You should only eat when you're hungry. This is one critical lifestyle, a dietary lifestyle that you need to adopt. Only eat when you're hungry. And so far as you are not hungry, do not eat. Developing the power over food is a part of the dietary principle that we're establishing. Where when you can see food yet make a decision not to eat it, it's a very good thing. And these are the levels of higher people who are practicing intermittent fasting. That is how they're able to do that. One day eating, another day not eating. It comes from that principle. But being able to control yourself when it comes to food in front of you. So you only eat when you are one. When you are hungry. Why am I saying that? The surge and the crash phenomena that is associated with polished grains and simple sugars is not something that you're going to experience with whole grains or fiber, because they are released, and it also limits the amount of food that you're going to do. So in the long run, I don't know, I don't think that I have data to support it, but in my opinion, if it creates fullness in you and it prevents you from going back to eat more, that should go a very, very, very long way to be able to help you. So let us come to the other ones. What is another source of fiber? The another source of fiber, you see, I love this picture, is broccoli. Oh, broccoli contains some very, 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 very good nutrients. I mean, among vegetables, I can tell you broccoli is, I give it 5 star, right? Among fruits, I give apple 5 star. And I know beets are also very good. But broccoli, then it's not only broccoli, but broccoli, tomato, a lot of fruits out there. Cauliflower is a very good source of fiber. You know, I can't handle broccoli a lot because, oh boy, it makes me, my level of fullness in my belly is at utmost when I eat broccoli. But it's very good. Broccoli, go back and look at broccoli. I'm giving you an assignment. Go and look at the components of broccoli and find what is in broccoli, and you will be amazed that sometimes instead of spending money to buy all the things that you are trying to put in your food, eating broccoli, cauliflower, they have high component. You see the thing over the stock is all fiber, but they contain a lot of good vitamins. Very good source of vitamin is found in them. So eating broccoli, cauliflower, all these ones will go a long way. Right? Tomato, right? They are good source of fiber, and I will encourage you to do it. Have a tendency to include a 5-star food that we're talking about here. The broccolis in your food, right? The cauliflower. These gives you good fiber, good source of, especially the vitamin Bs. The good source of the vitamin Bs that will go a long way to help you. Tomato is also like that. Tomato is a very, very good one that you should include in your food, right? Processed tomato is good, but I'm telling you, the natural tomato, especially for the men, it is believed that tomato contains something they call lycopene, and that can go a long way, even for the men. There's some controversial data about prostate and other things. I don't know how good that data is. But boy, if you're a man, include tomato in your diet, and it contains fiber, and that can go a long way to be able to help you. So broccoli, cauliflower, all those vegetables out there. The reason why vegetables are good, it is not because of just the fact that they contain low calorie. No. Because vegetables are also a good source of what? Fiber, number one. A good source of vitamins that will save you a lot of money. And that the other one is also the low amount of calorie that is in them. So let's go back to our first picture and that we showed you. And I want to point something to you, right? So even if you don't want to eat the whole grain cereal, the whole grain bread or other things, you can decide to eat the vegetables, that good source of it. And what about fruits? Apple. 5-star, right? Apple contains very, very good amount of fiber. Lot of fiber, especially the red apple. So within the apple, the red apple is my 5-star. My daughters, they tell me that an apple a day will keep you away from the doctor. There's a whole lot of truth in that. Some of us, we consume apple once a year, and sometimes every 2 or 3 years. That is not a good thing, okay? There is even the simple sugars that is found in apple. They are good. So consuming the apple in the right amount is very good. It contains good source of fiber, and even the carbohydrates, the sugars that are found in them, unlike the polished sugars, are much better for you. Let's look at other source of fiber. Another source of fiber in the category of fruits is oranges, right? I tend to consume the whole orange as much as I can. The reason why I consume the whole orange, my daughters ask me, why is it that you don't only consume the orange juice? The orange juice cannot compare to the orange itself. This is the reason. The orange juice, which is a good source of vitamin C, will only give you what? Will only give you the sugar in it and probably the vitamin in it. But if you don't consume the whole orange, you lose the fiber, which is a very good thing for you. So consuming the whole orange is good rather than just consuming the orange juice. Let us come to another thing like banana. Even banana, it contains a good amount of fiber. The only thing about banana that you need to be a little careful about is the banana is a source of potassium. So I think tomato is also a high source of potassium. So people with kidney disease and people who have a tendency to have high potassium, it is important to be careful about eating bananas so that you don't drive your potassium too high. But even banana is a good source of fiber. So you are realizing that fiber, in terms of a good source of fiber, we have the grain, the whole grain. The second thing is the vegetables, with the 5-star being broccoli, and the other ones that will follow with decreasing the level of stars you want to give it. Cauliflower and all the vegetables out there. The vegetables contain a good amount of it. And the third one that we discussed here was the fruits, with apple being number one, followed by the others. Okay, so that is good. So now let us move on to another source of fiber, which is the nuts, right? Almonds. The reason why we talk about nuts is not because of just the fact that they contain omega-3. They are also good source of fiber. Almonds and walnut in particular are excellent source of fiber. Remember that because they are fat, you need to consume them in in moderate or small amounts, because 1 gram of fat gives you 9 calories, whereas 1 gram of carbohydrates gives you 4 calories. So the concept is to consume it in the appropriate amounts. Nuts is a staple. I mean, for me, every day, and I consume them. And I will recommend that if you're looking for another good source of fiber, nuts is a good way to go. So now so what are the benefits of nuts? It's a good source of omega-3, which we know that it can go a long way to help with your triglycerides, especially if you get the appropriate omega-3. It also contains fiber and other nutrients, which are micronutrients, which I believe that is going to go a long way to help you. So these, you realize that if you look at this picture that we have, there are many sources of getting what? Whole grain. And your goal, and your many sources of getting fiber. And your goal is that every day, try to make sure that your food contains a good source of fiber. So anybody that engages himself in eating a fruit a day and eating some vegetables a day, every day, you realize that automatically your fiber content is going to go up and your simple sugar content is going to go down. But if you don't engage in eating vegetables and eating fruits and eating nuts, the fiber content in your food is what? Is very low. And I can tell you this, when your fiber content in your food is low, then your non-fiber content in the food is what? Is high. That means that you are eating either white rice, the polished foods out there that you are eating. So make a decision today to consume the fiber because of the benefits of fiber. And that is why you see in our picture over here, we are showing you all forms of, it's a list of high fiber foods. We are showing them all to you. And realize that it's not difficult at all. You are showing these pictures and other things, and they should go a long way to be able to help you. From berries, avocado, and I would not encourage coconut oil. The coconut itself is a very good source of fiber. Boy, that one we know. So, and peas and sprouts, they are all good source of fiber. For instance, if you cannot tolerate broccoli, you can go for the sprouts, and that can go a long way to help you. So it is very difficult for any of us not to engage ourselves in an appropriate dietary pattern, especially when it comes to fiber. The good thing is that the food that are associated with fiber, they seem to be on the what? On the list, the high on the they seem to be number one in terms of the food that you should eat, in terms of dietary pattern. And that is why the discussion about fiber is important. So let us move to Mediterranean diet. What do you find in Mediterranean diet? The Mediterranean diet is essentially a food that is rich in vegetables and fruits. What will I say? So Mediterranean diet is essentially high fiber diet, if you look at it one way, because fruits and vegetables account for most of the high fiber diets that we're talking about here. So this is food that was telling. Let me give you the history of it. So the history of Mediterranean diet, which is now considered by UNESCO in the intangible, is considered intangible heritage of UNESCO because of its importance. After the Second World War, it was found that the people in southern Italy, instead of they having a lower life expectancy or other things, they seem to be healthy. So one of the people at that time, Dr. Keys, he went to study these people, and he realized the kind of food that they were eating. And the kind of food that we were eating is the Mediterranean diet. That's where the name Mediterranean diet comes from. The lower part of Spain, the lower part of Italy, that is where they got this food. And essentially this food, you can see the picture over here. What do you see? It is made up of essentially high fiber food. What am I saying? It's made up of vegetables and what? And fruits. That the quantity of vegetables and fruits is high. Then it also includes nuts. So the highest content is vegetables and fruits, followed by nuts in moderate amount. And then the last one, it contains fish and poultry in the lowest amount. So I tell people, don't rush to be a vegetarian. I cannot be a vegetarian. Half of my family, I'm talking about my father's side, probably, I wouldn't say half. Some of them were vegetarians and others were not. But I realized that making the right choices is the most important. So meat is not bad. I want to repeat this. If you eat meat, don't have any guilty conscience. And if you don't eat meat, don't think that you are healthier than the person that eats meat. That may be a misconception. What is important is to eat the food that have been shown to be good. And in my opinion, the Mediterranean diet is the number one food that has been shown. The Dutch diet is also there. And you don't need to go and buy a Mediterranean diet from over the counter or something like that if you know how to prepare it or if you have somebody to help you. Of course, if you don't have time and you know that a particular food is similar to the Mediterranean diet, then we'll encourage you to be able to go for it. So the diet, if the guy wants to study them and they realize that, okay, this is the reason why these people may probably be living longer than the so-called other people who are rich, whose food is made up of more of a polished grain or very low in fiber. And yet these people who are eating what we consider a poor man's food, they seem to be healthy. What is poor man's food? That is food that have been left in their natural state. Fruits and vegetables within their natural state without destroying their what? Their nutrients, together with nuts and low amount of fish and poultry. And even if they consume meat, the meat is lean meat. So the last component of it, so meat is not bad, but one type of meat in adding to your food that you need to stay away from is red meat, but I'll come to that. So first of all, I've told you the components of the Mediterranean diet. High amounts of fruit and vegetables, followed by moderate amounts of nuts, and followed by low amounts of lean meat, fish, and poultry. So that is what it is. So you can formulate your food that way. And if you eat around these principles, that will go a long way to help you. Now let us come to this. They did a trial and looked at the trial. the pre-med trial, and they realized that when you add extra virgin oil to your Mediterranean diet, you even get a greater benefit. Actually, I'm going to quote the amount of extra virgin oil. They gave them 1 liter of extra virgin oil every week. So it tells you that fats are not bad. And when you consume the appropriate amount of fat, that will go a long way to help you. So there are 3 forms of patients that they looked at. People who just ate the Mediterranean diet, people who ate the Mediterranean diet and with NAS, and the people who ate Mediterranean diet with extra virgin oil. And this is what they showed, that the people who are the greatest benefit from eating the Mediterranean diet are people who eat the Mediterranean diet with extra virgin olive oil. I cannot reinforce this to you. This is critical and important. So, go above and beyond your Mediterranean diet. Adding extra virgin olive oil, according to the pre-med trial, comes with a benefit of protecting you from having a heart attack, protecting you from having stroke, and protecting you from dying from a cardiac ward, from a cardiac cause. So it is a second stage that if you adopt a Mediterranean diet, adding these 2 things, the NAS and the extra virgin oil, I would say moderate amounts in terms of the extra virgin oil, and probably small amounts in the terms of moderate to small amounts in terms of the nut, is something that will help you. Let me tell you this: there is no food in this world, there is no particular diet in this world that probably has powerful randomized data behind it like the Mediterranean diet. There are all sorts of food out there, but few of them have been subjected to rigorous analysis like that of the Mediterranean diet. And that is why this started from the 1950s, from the work of Dr. Keyes, who studied these people, and they ended up doing a huge trial, studying people about 13,000 people across the continents, and the benefits. So the benefits of the Mediterranean diet was proven. So when the pre-med trial was published, a lot of people were talking about Mediterranean diet. But somebody said that is not new at all. Actually, if you look at the work of Dr. Keyes that he did, this is nothing new at all. Somebody wrote that in a tutorial. Is this something new under the sun? Absolutely not. Because it's been proven through epidemiological and other studies that people who eat Mediterranean diet, it will cut down. And these are hard endpoints which medicine cannot do. Medicine can sometimes, only medicine alone cannot do. Let me put it that way. No medicine cannot do. But only medicine alone cannot do. So doing this will cut down the medicine you take. And probably it will prevent you from even taking the medicine. Because if it can prevent you from having stroke and having heart attacks and dying from cardiovascular events, that will go a very long way to be able to help you. And that is why I strongly recommend that you have to change your diet every day. Look at a picture of Mediterranean diet, put it somewhere, and if you are eating food and the food is not similar to that picture, you need to think about it, think twice about it, and then make a decision. And the goal here is the fact that your food, there are various ways of preparing the food, in my opinion. But the critical element is that the food must contain these components, right? Some people may decide to consume the tomato in a raw form. That is not a problem. If you want to use the tomato to prepare stew, that is not a problem, right? If you want to slice the tomato and then whatever you want to do, but the goal is consume the tomato. If you decide to cut the broccoli and steam it before you eat it, that is not a problem. But at the end of the day, consume it. That is the most important part of it. If you are able to do that, then you are on the path of the Mediterranean diet. And if you're on the path of the Mediterranean diet, together with good physical activity, that will go a long way to help you. See, we are developing the principle of diet here. That is a change of lifestyle. And it starts with, in my opinion, making the appropriate food choices. And the second thing with the physical activity and the calorie restrictions, that will go a long way to help you. We will come back to you and then talk about meat. But let me talk over here. In the meat, it's not bad. But when it comes to choices of meat, let us add this so that it makes your food that you're eating. Poultry is good. Most of the fat that is in poultry is in the skin. So skinless poultry is better than poultry that has got skin. So if you decide to go for poultry and you want to take it to the next level, the going in for skinless poultry is better than the poultry with the skin. And we talked about the fish and the issues relating to fish. And I will encourage you to go to our YouTube and come to Zoelight Radio. All these things are available over there. Or you can call our producer and we can make these things available to you. So that is good. Now let's come to red meat. The red meat over and over and over and over. It is not necessarily the red meat that is bad. But the worst form of meat, the worst form of red meat that you can eat is processed red meat. Processed red meat undoubtedly has a lot of problems. So if you look at some of the pure trial data, they realize that eating meat in the third world countries hasn't got a problem. Actually, eating meat in those countries comes with a benefit. So I asked myself, what is the difference between meat that is eaten in advanced countries and eat that is the meat that is eaten in developing countries? The biggest difference in them is processed. In most developing countries that I know of, they get the meat and they prepare the meat by either grilling them, baking them, without the food being processed. Whereas processed red meat contains a exceedingly high amount of salt, a high amount of saturated fat. So the combination of saturated fat together with high amount of salt is a sickening combination, which I will tell you that move away from red meat that is processed. But if you go for lean red meat, that is not a problem. Consuming lean red meat is not a problem if you consume them in the small amounts, especially when you grill them. Oh, I love the grilled one. If you grill them, that is very good. And that will go a long way to help you. So if you are eating meat, don't feel guilty. But pick the lean meat, and if you can grill them, that is good, and that will help you. So that can ensure that you are enjoying life. You see, if you eat food you don't enjoy, that is horrible. But I can tell you this. If you take all the things that we've talked about and adopt the principle of Mediterranean diet, you can enjoy food more than you've ever even imagined. Adapting the Mediterranean diet food, which I eat virtually every day, with my grilled meat, and I do lamb, I do beef, I do poultry, I do salmon as a combination. I'm telling you, I'm not a vegetarian, and those who are vegetarians, fine and fantastic, and it's okay. And since I did that, I have enjoyed eating more than ever before. So come along with me, even as you adopt these principles, and let us all take these steps, adopt this principle of high fiber food, the Mediterranean diet, and the other components of which will go a long way to help us. We'll encourage you to ask other people to join us. Thank you for joining me, and thank my producer for the great work he does week in and week out. God bless you, and God bless this nation.